In 1952, a Methodist grandmother from rural Indiana stood at her farmhouse counter with nothing but 4 fresh eggs, 2 cups of milk, and an unbaked pie shell. She whisked sugar into egg yolks, tempered the hot milk slowly, and then poured the golden custard into the shell. Her vanilla egg custard pie disappeared within minutes at every church potluck, the first dessert gone from fellowship hall tables while other pies sat untouched. That simple recipe, passed down through generations of church cookbooks through the 1980s, became the foundation of American custard pie traditions. Let's rediscover these 30 forgotten church potluck custard pies that were part of their lives but now have fully disappeared. Simple egg custard baked in pie shells became Sunday staples at every church potluck between 1945 and 1985.
Insanely delicious vanilla.
These cost 75 cents
nice
per
and
pie,
cool now.
using eggs, milk, sugar, vanilla, nutmeg, and unbaked pie shells. Housewives cracked 4 eggs into bowls, whisked them with sugar until smooth, then heated milk until steaming. They poured hot milk into eggs slowly, while whisking constantly to prevent scrambling. Vanilla and salt stirred in, custard strained through sieves, then poured into pie shells. Fresh nutmeg grated across tops created a speckled appearance. Pies baked at 425 degrees 10 minutes, then 350 for 35 more, until edges set firm, but centers jiggled slightly. That jiggle meant perfection. One pie fed 8 people after Sunday services. Church ladies competed over whose custard set smoothest without cracks. The pies cost under $1, but tasted like grandmother's love. By 1985, store-bought homemade and instant pudding eliminated tempering eggs on stovetops. Did your grandmother make this every Sunday? Rich chocolate custard-filled pie shells, when chocolate custard pie dominated church dessert tables from 1950 through 1980. These cost $1 per pie, combining cocoa powder, sugar, eggs, milk, butter, vanilla, and cornstarch, cooked into thick chocolate filling. Housewives whisked cocoa with sugar and cornstarch in saucepans, then added milk slowly while stirring constantly over medium heat. The mixture thickened gradually into glossy chocolate custard that coated spoonbacks. Butter and vanilla stirred in at the end added richness. Beaten egg yolks tempered with hot custard. Then everything cooked 2 more minutes until properly thickened. The custard poured into pre-baked pie shells and chilled 4 hours until set firm. Some topped with meringue beaten from leftover egg whites, others preferred whipped cream clouds. One pie served 8 people generous slices. Children requested chocolate over vanilla every time. The deep cocoa flavor satisfied serious chocolate cravings without expensive ingredients. By 1980, Jell-O chocolate pudding pie-filled boxes replaced from scratch custard. Did your grandmother cook chocolate custard on the stove? A shredded coconut, suspended in vanilla custard, created coconut custard pie that appeared at Southern church gatherings throughout the 1950s and 1960s. These cost 85 cents per pie, using eggs, milk, sugar, vanilla, butter, and sweetened shredded coconut mixed into smooth custard. Housewives beat eggs with sugar until pale yellow, then heated milk and butter until steaming hot. They poured hot milk into eggs slowly while whisking constantly, added vanilla and 2 cups shredded coconut, stirred everything smooth. The coconut-studded custard poured into unbaked pie shells, then baked at 425 degrees 15 minutes before reducing to 350 for 30 more. The coconut toasted golden on top, while custard set underneath. Some bakers reserved coconut and sprinkled it across tops before baking for extra texture. One pie fed 8 people slices packed with coconut throughout. The tropical flavor felt exotic in Midwest church basements. Children picked out coconut pieces or ate them enthusiastically, depending on preferences. By 1985, coconut fell from favor and seemed old-fashioned. Did your grandmother use the whole bag of coconut? Whipped cream beaten with sugar-topped chilled pies right before serving. The bananas stayed fresh tasting when custard poured warm, sealing fruit from air exposure. One pie served 8 generous portions. Children loved the banana-custard combination that tasted like fancy diner desserts. Some families added vanilla wafers between layers for extra texture and nostalgia. By 1980, instant pudding replaced cooked custard, and Cool Whip replaced real cream. Did your grandmother slice bananas right before assembly?
Many of you have been asking where to find these recipes. We've gathered hundreds of them from the Depression era through the 1970s in our cookbook, Grandma's Kitchen. Complete instructions, pro tips in 10 chapters. Link is in the description below. Now, let's get back to the video.
Brown sugar, cooked into caramel, created butterscotch custard pie that tasted richer than ingredients suggested at church suppers throughout the 1950s and 1960s. These cost $1 per pie, using brown sugar, butter, eggs, milk, cornstarch, vanilla, and salt, transformed into deep butterscotch flavor. Housewives melted butter in saucepans, then stirred in packed brown sugar and cooked until bubbling and fragrant. Milk, added slowly, while stirring constantly, prevented sugar from hardening into chunks. Egg yolks beaten with cornstarch tempered with hot mixture, then everything cooked until thick and glossy. Vanilla stirred in at the end enhanced butterscotch notes. The dark amber custard poured into pre-baked pie shells and chilled until firm and sliceable. Some topped with meringue, others served with whipped cream. One pie fed 8 people slices that tasted like expensive candy. The butterscotch flavor came entirely from brown sugar and butter without artificial extracts. Children requested it over chocolate sometimes. By 1985, butterscotch fell from popularity when chocolate dominated everything. Did your grandmother make real butterscotch custard? 5 church custard pies revealed, 25 more waiting. The first batch cost under $1 each and fed 8 people. The next 5 include lemon meringue, peanut butter layers, and Indiana's state pie that uses no eggs. Lemon custard topped with mile-high meringue made lemon custard meringue pie the showstopper at every church potluck from 1940 through 1985. These cost $1.20 per pie, using fresh lemons, sugar, eggs, cornstarch, butter, and water cooked into bright yellow filling. Housewives whisked sugar with cornstarch in saucepans, added water and lemon juice, then cooked over medium heat until thickened and translucent. Beaten egg yolks tempered with hot mixture, cooked 2 more minutes, then butter and lemon zest stirred in created glossy custard. The filling poured into pre-baked pie shells while still hot. Leftover egg whites beaten with sugar until stiff peaks formed, spread over hot filling, then baked at 350 until golden brown on peaks. The meringue sealed to edges prevented weeping. One pie served 8 people. Church ladies competed over meringue height and browning perfection. The lemon tartness balanced sweet meringue perfectly. By 1985, store-bought lemon pies replaced from-scratch versions. Did your grandmother make meringue from scratch? Peanut butter folded into vanilla custard created creamy peanut butter custard pie that appeared at church dinners throughout the 1960s and 1970s. These cost $1.10 per pie, using peanut butter, cream cheese, powdered sugar, eggs, milk, and vanilla, layered in graham cracker crusts. Housewives beat cream cheese with peanut butter and powdered sugar until smooth and fluffy. They made vanilla custard separately by cooking egg yolks, milk, sugar, and cornstarch until thickened. Half the peanut butter mixture spread in graham cracker crusts, custard poured on top, then the remaining peanut butter mixture dotted across and swirled with knives. Pies chilled 4 hours until set firm. Whipped cream topped slices before serving. The peanut butter custard combination tasted like fancy restaurant desserts. One pie served 8 people generous portions. Children requested it constantly after the first tastings. The graham cracker crust added texture plain pie crusts couldn't match. By 1980, peanut butter pie became no-bake versions with Cool Whip instead of custard. Did your grandmother swirl the peanut butter? Indiana's state pie used no eggs when sugar cream pie became Hoosier pie, served at every church gathering from 1920 through 1985. These cost 60 cents per pie, using heavy cream, sugar, flour, butter, vanilla, and nutmeg in simple combinations. Housewives mixed sugar with flour in bowls, then poured heavy cream over and stirred until smooth. The cream mixture poured into unbaked pie shells, butter dots scattered across tops, then nutmeg grated generously over everything. Pies baked at 450 degrees 10 minutes, then 350 for 30 more until tops browned and filling barely jiggled when shaken. The high heat caramelized sugar on top into crackly crust. No eggs meant simpler preparation without tempering or scrambling risks. One pie served 8 people. The cream created custard-like texture without traditional custard ingredients. Amish and Mennonite communities made these weekly for church. Cinnamon replaced nutmeg in some families. The simplicity meant young daughters made them independently. By 1985, heavy cream costs increased and health concerns eliminated it. Did your Indiana grandmother make this every week? Tangy buttermilk transformed into sweet custard when buttermilk pie filled Southern church dessert tables from 1930 through 1980. These cost 70 cents per pie, using buttermilk, sugar, eggs, butter, flour, vanilla, and nutmeg mixed into smooth batter. Housewives beat eggs with sugar until thick and pale, then melted butter and stirred it in while still warm. Flour mixed with buttermilk until smooth, then combined with egg mixture and vanilla. The thin batter poured into unbaked pie shells, nutmeg grated across the tops. Pies baked at 350 degrees 45 minutes, until tops browned golden and centers set with slight jiggle remaining. The buttermilk tang balanced sweetness perfectly without tasting sour. One pie served 8 people. The texture fell between custard and chess pie density. Church potlucks featured multiple buttermilk pies competing for attention. Children ate it without knowing buttermilk was involved. Some families added lemon zest for extra brightness. The ingredients cost pennies during the Depression, when butter became expensive. By 1985, nobody kept buttermilk stocked anymore. Did your Southern grandmother make this monthly? Cornmeal added to egg custard created chess pie that became a Southern church staple from 1890 through 1985. These cost 65 cents per pie, using eggs, sugar, butter, cornmeal, milk, vinegar, and vanilla in traditional combinations. Housewives beat eggs with sugar until ribbony, then melted butter and stirred it in warm. Cornmeal, milk, vinegar, and vanilla mixed together until smooth, then combined with egg mixture. The slightly grainy batter poured into unbaked pie shells and baked at 350 degrees for 50 minutes, until the tops turned deep golden and crackled slightly. The vinegar added tang that balanced sweetness without tasting acidic. Cornmeal created texture between smooth custard and grainy filling. One pie served 8 people slices that tasted rich despite simple ingredients. The name's origin remained mysterious. Some said chess came from chest pie, stored in pie chests. Others claimed just pie, slurred into chess. Church bake sales sold them whole for fundraising. The golden top crackled when sliced, revealing creamy interior underneath. By 1985, chess pie seemed too plain when chocolate dominated preferences. Did your grandmother make chess pie for every potluck? 10 church custard pies down, 20 more forgotten. The first batch used eggs and milk cooked into custard. The next 10 showcase regional specialties and unusual flavor combinations that defined church potluck diversity across America. Homemade caramel, stirred into egg custard, created caramel custard pie that tasted like expensive candy shop confections at church potlucks from 1945 through 1980. These cost $1.15 per pie, using granulated sugar, heavy cream, butter, eggs, milk, vanilla, and cornstarch, transformed through careful caramelization techniques that required patience and watchful eyes, preventing burning. Housewives poured sugar into heavy saucepans and heated over medium-high heat without stirring, just swirling pans occasionally until sugar melted completely and turned deep amber color that smelled like toffee. They removed pans from heat and carefully added heavy cream that bubbled violently and steamed, then stirred constantly until hardened caramel dissolved into smooth sauce. Butter stirred in added richness. The caramel cooled slightly while they made custard base by whisking egg yolks with cornstarch and milk, then cooking over medium heat until thickened. The cooled caramel folded into custard created swirled amber filling that poured into pre-baked pie shells. Pies chilled 4 hours until set firm and sliceable. Some topped with whipped cream, others served plain to showcase caramel flavor. One pie served 8 people generous portions that satisfied intense sweet cravings. The caramel flavor came entirely from caramelized sugar, without artificial extracts or imitation flavoring. Church ladies competed over who achieved deepest caramel color, without burning sugar into bitter disaster. Children requested caramel over chocolate sometimes, because flavor seemed more sophisticated and adult. The process required experience. Too light meant weak flavor. Too dark meant burnt bitterness that ruined entire pies. By 1980, caramel extract bottles eliminated the need for stovetop caramelization, and instant pudding replaced cooked custard completely. Did your grandmother make real caramel from scratch? Strong brewed coffee-flavored egg custard. When coffee custard pie appeared at church gatherings throughout the 1950s and 1960s, appealing to adults who appreciated sophisticated bitter notes. These cost 85 cents per pie, using strong black coffee, eggs, sugar, milk, cornstarch, butter, and vanilla cooked into mocha-colored filling that smelled like breakfast and dessert combined perfectly. Housewives brewed coffee double strength, using twice the grounds for intense flavor that wouldn't disappear during baking or get overwhelmed by sweetness. They whisked egg yolks with sugar and cornstarch in saucepans, then added milk and strong coffee slowly while cooking over medium heat until mixture thickened into glossy custard. Butter and vanilla stirred in at the end created smooth finish. The coffee-flavored custard poured into pre-baked pie shells and chilled 4 hours until firm. Some added chocolate shavings on top, others served with whipped cream sweetened slightly to balance coffee bitterness. One pie served 8 people slices that paired perfectly with after-dinner coffee in church fellowship halls. The coffee flavor appealed to adults more than children, who found it too bitter for young palates. Church ladies served it during evening meetings and Bible studies when dessert needed to complement coffee rather than compete. The caffeine content meant eating before bedtime kept some people awake for hours afterward. Instant coffee worked, but produced weaker flavor than freshly brewed versions that used real grounds. By 1975, coffee-flavored desserts fell from popularity when chocolate became the only acceptable flavor for pies, and coffee stayed in cups instead of custard. Did your grandmother use leftover morning coffee? Pure maple syrup replaced white sugar when maple custard pie brought Vermont flavor to church potlucks across New England from 1930 through 1985. These cost $1.50 per pie, using real maple syrup, eggs, heavy cream, butter, vanilla, and salt in simple combinations that showcased maple flavor without competition from other strong flavors. Housewives beat eggs with pure maple syrup until well combined and slightly foamy, then heated cream and butter until steaming hot but not boiling. They poured hot cream into egg mixture slowly while whisking constantly to prevent scrambling, then added vanilla and pinch of salt that enhanced maple sweetness. The amber-colored custard poured into unbaked pie shells and baked at 375 degrees 10 minutes, then reduced to 325 for 35 more until edges set but centers jiggled slightly. The maple flavor intensified during baking, filling kitchens with sweet, woodsy aroma. One pie served 8 people's slices that tasted like pancake syrup transformed into elegant dessert. The real maple syrup cost significantly more than white sugar, making these special occasion pies rather than everyday offerings. Church fundraisers in maple-producing regions featured them as local specialties that showcased regional products. Did your New England grandmother use syrup from family trees? Mashed sweet potatoes folded into spiced custard created sweet potato custard pie that appeared at Southern church Thanksgiving dinners from 1900 through 1985. These cost 90 cents per pie, using sweet potatoes, eggs, milk, brown sugar, butter, cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, and vanilla combined into orange-colored filling. Housewives boiled sweet potatoes until fork tender, then peeled and mashed them smooth while still hot. They beat eggs with brown sugar until thick, then stirred in mashed sweet potatoes, melted butter, milk, spices, and vanilla until completely smooth without lumps. The thick orange batter poured into unbaked pie shells and baked at 425 degrees 15 minutes, then 350 for 35 more until knife inserted near center came out clean. The sweet potatoes created dense custard texture between pumpkin pie and regular custard density. One pie served 8 people. The spice combination made kitchens smell like Thanksgiving regardless of actual season. Church Thanksgiving dinners featured multiple sweet potato pies. Did your grandmother grow sweet potatoes for pies? Fresh orange juice and zest created orange custard pie that brought citrus brightness to church potlucks throughout the 1940s and 1950s, when exotic flavors meant anything beyond vanilla and chocolate. These cost $1 per pie, using fresh oranges, eggs, sugar, butter, cornstarch, and milk, combined into sunset-colored filling that tasted like creamsicles, transformed into elegant dessert. Housewives juiced 4 large oranges and grated zest from peels before discarding them, then whisked juice with sugar, cornstarch, and egg yolks in saucepans. They cooked mixture over medium heat while stirring constantly until thickened into glossy orange custard that smelled like Florida sunshine. Butter and milk stirred in created creamy finish, then orange zest folded through added intense citrus flavor throughout. The bright orange custard poured into pre-baked pie shells and chilled 4 hours until set firm. Some topped with meringue made from leftover egg whites. Others preferred whipped cream clouds. One pie served 8 people's slices that refreshed palates after heavy church dinners. Did your grandmother squeeze oranges by hand? 15 church custard pies revealed, 15 more waiting in forgotten recipe boxes. The middle batch showcased caramel, coffee, maple, sweet potato, and orange flavors that demonstrated custard versatility. The next 5 feature regional specialties from Amish country, Indiana, the Deep South, and Kentucky that defined church potluck diversity. Raisins suspended in sweet custard-filled funeral pie that Amish and Mennonite communities brought to wakes and memorial services from 1800s through present day. These cost 70 cents per pie using raisins, brown sugar, eggs, milk, butter, lemon juice, cinnamon, and cornstarch cooked into dark filling appropriate for somber occasions. Housewives simmered raisins in water 20 minutes until plump and soft, then drained and reserved liquid. They whisked egg yolks with brown sugar and cornstarch, then added milk and reserved raisin liquid while cooking over medium heat until thickened. Butter, lemon juice, and cinnamon stirred in enhanced flavors, then plumped raisins folded through created textured filling. The custard poured into unbaked pie shells and baked at 350 degrees 40 minutes until set. Some versions added top crusts with vents, others left open-faced for custard pies. One pie served 8 mourners at funeral meals. The name came from consistent appearance at Amish funerals, where practical pies stored well and used pantry ingredients available year-round without fresh fruit requirements. Raisins meant pies could be made in winter when nothing else grew. Did your Amish grandmother make these for community funerals? Pecans and raisins, suspended in egg custard, created Osgood pie that appeared at Indiana and Kentucky church gatherings from the 1880s through the 1970s. These cost $1.20 per pie, using eggs, sugar, butter, vinegar, cinnamon, cloves, pecans, and raisins combined into spiced nut filling. Housewives beat egg yolks with sugar until thick and ribbony, then stirred in melted butter, vinegar, cinnamon, and cloves until well combined. Beaten egg whites folded in gently created lighter texture than solid custard. Chopped pecans and raisins stirred through distributed throughout filling evenly. The mixture poured into unbaked pie shells and baked at 350 degrees 45 minutes, until tops browned and centers set with slight jiggle remaining. The vinegar added tang that balanced sweetness and made pies less cloying than pure sugar versions. One pie served 8 people. The combination of nuts and dried fruit stretched expensive ingredients further than using either alone. Church bake sales featured them as premium offerings because pecan costs exceeded plain custard ingredients. The name's origin remained mysterious, with theories ranging from exclamation, "Oh, so good," to person's surname lost to history. Did your grandmother make Osgood pie for church? Spiced date custard, named after Confederate president, created Jefferson Davis pie that appeared at Southern church gatherings from 1920s through 1970s. These cost $1 per pie, using dates, eggs, brown sugar, butter, heavy cream, cinnamon, nutmeg, and vanilla, combined into dark filling reminiscent of Civil War-era recipes. Housewives chopped dates into small pieces and soaked them briefly in warm water to soften. They beat eggs with brown sugar until thick, then stirred in melted butter, heavy cream, spices, and vanilla until smooth. Drained dates folded and distributed throughout custard evenly. The spiced custard poured into unbaked pie shells and baked at 350 degrees 50 minutes until tops cracked slightly and centers set firm. The dates created chewy texture throughout smooth custard that prevented monotony. One pie served 8 people, portions rich enough that small slices satisfied. The name honored Jefferson Davis, though connection to actual historical recipes remained unverified and possibly invented by later generations. Did your Southern grandmother make Jefferson Davis pie? Kentucky, crystal clear filling that looked almost see-through, gave transparent pie its name at Kentucky church gatherings from 1850s through 1980s. These cost 80 cents per pie, using eggs, sugar, butter, heavy cream, vanilla, and flour beaten into translucent custard that set firm but remained visually clear. Housewives creamed softened butter with sugar until light and fluffy, then beat in eggs one at a time until mixture became pale and increased in volume significantly. Heavy cream and vanilla stirred in, then small amount of flour folded through just enough to stabilize without creating cake texture. The glossy, nearly transparent batter poured into unbaked pie shells and baked at 350 degrees 45 minutes until tops browned golden and centers barely jiggled. The finished pie looked almost translucent when light shined through filling, hence the name that distinguished it from opaque custards. One pie served 8 people. The simplicity meant ingredients' quality mattered enormously. Cheap butter produced inferior flavor. Real vanilla made significant difference. Kentucky church potlucks featured multiple transparent pies, competing for blue ribbons at county fairs. Tiny key limes from Florida created key lime custard pie that appeared at coastal church gatherings from 1920s through present, with authentic versions becoming rare by 1985. These cost $1.30 per pie, using key lime juice, sweetened condensed milk, egg yolks, and graham cracker crust in simple combinations that created pale yellow filling. Housewives rolled key limes on countertops to release juice, then cut and squeezed them by hand until collecting half-cup intensely tart juice from approximately 20 tiny limes. They whisked egg yolks until thick, then stirred in sweetened condensed milk and lime juice until smooth and pale yellow. The mixture thickened slightly from chemical reaction between acidic lime juice and condensed milk, without any cooking required. The custard poured into pre-baked graham cracker crusts and baked at 350 degrees 15 minutes until just set, with slight jiggle remaining. Some topped with meringue that browned under broilers, others served with whipped cream. One pie served 8 people tart slices that refreshed palates. True key lime juice created different flavor than regular Persian limes, more floral and less sharp. 20 church custard pies uncovered, 10 more forgotten recipes waiting. These regional specialties showcased Amish raisins, Kentucky transparency, and Florida key limes that defined local church potluck traditions. The final 10 feature honey, rum, and fruit combinations that pushed custard boundaries creatively. Golden honey stirred into egg custard created honey custard pie that appeared at church potlucks throughout the 1940s and 1950s, when beekeepers brought their harvest to share with congregations. These cost $1 per pie, using pure honey, eggs, heavy cream, butter, vanilla, and salt in simple combinations that showcased honey's natural sweetness and floral notes without competition from white sugar. Housewives measured honey carefully, because consistency varied by season and flower source. Spring honey ran thinner than fall honey. Clover honey tasted milder than wildflower varieties that brought stronger flavors to finished pies. They beat eggs until foamy, then stirred in honey and heated cream until everything combined smoothly. Some heated honey slightly to make it pour easier. Others used it straight from jars at room temperature. Melted butter and vanilla stirred in created rich custard that poured into unbaked pie shells. Salt added in tiny pinches enhanced honey sweetness rather than making pies taste salty. The pies baked at 350 degrees 45 minutes until edges set firm but centers retained slight jiggle that indicated proper doneness. Overbaking turned honey bitter and grainy. Underbaking left centers soupy and unpleasant. The finished pies cooled to room temperature, then chilled until serving time in church fellowship halls. One pie served 8 people slices that tasted like liquid gold, transformed into solid dessert form. The honey flavor varied dramatically depending on source. Orange blossom honey from Florida tasted completely different from buckwheat honey produced in northern states. Clover honey from Midwest created yet another flavor profile entirely. Church members who kept bees brought these pies as offerings that demonstrated their hive's productivity and quality. Children loved them because honey tasted sweeter than sugar, without harsh edges. Chocolate custard, layered beneath rum custard, created black-bottom pie that impressed guests at church socials throughout the 1950s and 1960s, with sophisticated two-toned appearance. These cost $1.50 per pie, using chocolate, rum, eggs, milk, sugar, gelatin, and heavy cream in complex combinations, requiring multiple steps and careful timing. Housewives made chocolate custard first by cooking cocoa powder, sugar, cornstarch, egg yolks, and milk over medium heat until thickened, then stirring in chopped dark chocolate until melted smooth. The chocolate custard poured into pre-baked pie shells and chilled until set firm, creating dark bottom layer. Meanwhile, they made rum custard by dissolving unflavored gelatin in cold water, then heating with milk, sugar, and beaten egg yolks until mixture coated spoonbacks without boiling. Rum stirred in after removing from heat added boozy flavor that made these adult desserts. The mixture cooled until beginning to thicken, then beaten egg whites folded in created light, fluffy texture. The pale rum custard spread carefully over set chocolate layer, then pies chilled several hours until both layers set completely. Whipped cream topped finished pies right before serving, sometimes garnished with chocolate shavings. One pie served 8 people portions with distinct chocolate and rum layers visible when sliced. The rum amount varied by baker. Some used tablespoons, others added quarter cups for stronger flavor. Church ladies debated whether rum content made these inappropriate for fellowship halls, ultimately deciding cooking eliminated alcohol sufficiently. The 2-layer construction required patience and proper chilling between steps. Ground almonds folded into vanilla custard created almond custard pie that appeared at church gatherings throughout the 1950s when almond extract became widely available in grocery stores. These cost $1.20 per pie, using blanched almonds, eggs, milk, sugar, butter, almond extract, and flour combined into pale custard flecked with nut pieces. Housewives blanched almonds by boiling briefly, then slipping off brown skins, revealing pale nuts underneath. They ground almonds fine, using manual nut grinders, or chopped them extremely fine with sharp knives on wooden cutting boards. The ground almonds stirred into custard base, made from beaten eggs, sugar, heated milk, and melted butter, created thick mixture that poured into unbaked pie shells. Almond extract added in small amounts enhanced nut flavor without overwhelming delicate custard. Some bakers added both vanilla and almond extract, others used almond exclusively for stronger flavor. The pies baked at 350 degrees 50 minutes, until tops turned golden brown and centers set with minimal jiggle. The ground almonds settled slightly during baking, creating denser layer at bottom and lighter layer on top. One pie served 8 people slices with subtle almond flavor throughout. The almond pieces added texture that smooth custard lacked, creating interest in every bite. Church ladies who made these regularly kept blanched almonds in their pantries specifically for pies. The blanching process removed bitter tannins from skins that would have discolored custard. Some families topped finished pies with sliced almonds, toasted until golden for visual appeal and extra crunch. Others preferred smooth tops without garnish. Thick coconut custard, topped with mile-high meringue, created coconut cream pie that dominated church dessert tables from 1940 through 1985 as the most requested pie at every potluck. These cost $1.10 per pie, using shredded coconut, eggs, milk, sugar, cornstarch, butter, vanilla, and cream of tartar for meringue topping. Housewives toasted half the coconut in dry skillets over medium heat, stirring constantly until golden brown and fragrant, then set aside for topping. They made custard by whisking egg yolks with sugar and cornstarch, then adding milk slowly while cooking over medium heat until thickened into glossy filling. Butter, vanilla, and remaining untoasted coconut stirred in created coconut-studded custard that poured into pre-baked pie shells while still hot. Leftover egg whites beaten with cream of tartar and sugar until stiff, glossy peaks formed, then spread over hot filling immediately, making sure meringue touched crust edges all around to prevent weeping and shrinking. The toasted coconut sprinkled across meringue tops added color and extra coconut flavor. Pies slid under broilers briefly until meringue peaks browned golden, requiring constant watching to prevent burning. One pie served 8 people generous slices. The combination of coconut custard and toasted meringue created textural contrast that made every bite interesting. Church suppers featured multiple coconut cream pies competing for attention, with judges evaluating meringue height, browning evenness, and coconut distribution throughout filling. Children scraped off meringue or ate it enthusiastically depending on preferences. Tart cherries, suspended in vanilla custard, created cherry custard pie that appeared at summer church picnics when cherry season peaked from June through July annually. These cost $1.30 per pie, using fresh cherries, eggs, milk, sugar, cornstarch, butter, almond extract, and flour, combined into pink-flecked custard. Housewives pitted 2 cups fresh cherries using manual cherry pitters, removing stems and stones while keeping fruit intact as much as possible. They tossed pitted cherries with small amount of flour to prevent sinking during baking. Custard base made from beaten eggs, sugar, milk, and cornstarch, cooked over medium heat until thickened, then butter and almond extract stirred in enhanced cherry flavor naturally. The floured cherries folded into warm custard, distributed throughout filling evenly. The pink custard poured into unbaked pie shells and baked at 350 degrees 50 minutes until tops browned lightly and cherries softened completely. The almond extract complemented cherries perfectly without tasting artificial. One pie served 8 people portions studded with whole cherries throughout. The fresh cherry season lasted only weeks, making these special summer treats rather than year-round offerings. Church ladies competed over who brought first cherry pie each season, marking summer's official arrival. Sour cherries worked better than sweet varieties because tartness balanced custard sweetness. Some bakers used canned cherries during winter months. 25 church custard pies revealed, 5 final recipes waiting. These featured honey from backyard hives, rum-spiked layers, ground almonds, towering meringue, and hand-pitted cherries. The last 5 showcase rum, sour cream, and summer fruit combinations that completed custard pie repertoire. Dark rum transformed vanilla custard into rum custard pie that appeared at 1960s and 1970s church potlucks, when adventurous bakers embraced boozy desserts that pushed traditional boundaries of acceptable church food. These cost $1.40 per pie, using dark rum, eggs, heavy cream, milk, sugar, butter, vanilla, and nutmeg combined into golden custard with unmistakable rum flavor that announced itself immediately. Housewives beat egg yolks with sugar until thick ribbons formed when whisk lifted from bowl, creating foundation strong enough to support alcohol without curdling during baking process. They heated milk and cream together until steaming but not boiling, then tempered hot liquid slowly into eggs while whisking constantly to raise temperature gradually without scrambling proteins. The rum added after tempering prevented alcohol from cooking off during heating phase, then melted butter and vanilla stirred in completed custard base, ready for baking. The boozy custard poured into unbaked pie shells. Nutmeg grated heavily across tops added warming spice that complemented rum's molasses notes naturally. Then pies baked at 350 degrees 45 minutes, until edges puffed and centers still jiggled slightly. The alcohol cooked partially during baking, but enough remained to create noticeable flavor and slight warmth in throat when swallowed. One pie served 8 people portions with distinct rum presence that adults appreciated but children rejected immediately after tasting. The rum content caused controversy at some conservative churches, where alcohol in any form remained forbidden even when baked into desserts for fellowship meals. Progressive congregations embraced these pies as sophisticated alternatives to plain vanilla custard that seemed boring by comparison to worldly desserts. Some bakers used spiced rum instead of dark for additional cinnamon and vanilla notes already infused into spirit. Others added a tablespoon of molasses to deepen flavor complexity further. The pies served room temperature showcased rum flavor, better than chilled versions where cold temperatures muted taste significantly. Church ladies whispered about whose pies contained most rum and who went light-handed to avoid offending conservative members who might complain to pastors. Tangy sour cream replaced milk when sour cream custard pie appeared at Pennsylvania Dutch church gatherings from the 1920s through the 1980s. Creating one of the most distinctive custard pies in American baking history. These cost 90 cents per pie, using sour cream, eggs, sugar, flour, cinnamon, nutmeg, raisins, and vanilla, combined into dense filling with noticeable tang that separated it from sweeter custard varieties. Housewives beat eggs with sugar until thick and ribbony, creating foundation that could support heavy sour cream without curdling during baking process. They stirred in full-fat sour cream slowly, then added flour and spices until smooth and well combined, without any lumps remaining in batter. Plumped raisins that had been soaked in warm water for 15 minutes, folded through custard, distributed sweet bursts throughout each slice evenly. Vanilla added at the end rounded out flavors without overwhelming sour cream's characteristic tang that made this pie unmistakable from first bite. The thick batter poured into unbaked pie shells and baked at 375 degrees 15 minutes. Then temperature reduced to 350 for 30 more, until tops browned deeply and centers set firm without any jiggle remaining, when pans shaken gently. The sour cream created denser custard than milk versions, more substantial and filling per slice than traditional egg custards that seemed light by comparison. One pie served 8 people portions rich enough that small slices satisfied completely, and nobody needed seconds after church dinners. The tang balanced sweetness perfectly, preventing cloying sugar overload that plagued some custard pies and made them impossible to finish without milk. Mennonite and Amish communities made these regularly because sour cream cost less than heavy cream, but created similarly rich results that impressed church members expecting plain desserts. The cinnamon-nutmeg combination made them appropriate for autumn and winter months when warming spices felt most welcome at Sunday suppers and holiday gatherings. Some bakers omitted raisins for smooth custard. Others added extra for chewier texture and more pronounced sweetness throughout filling. The pies improved overnight as flavors melded together during refrigeration and tang mellowed slightly without disappearing completely. Church suppers featured multiple sour cream pies because Pennsylvania Dutch communities valued this recipe highly. Fresh peaches sliced into vanilla custard created peach custard pie that appeared at summer church picnics when peach season peaked from July through August annually, marking the height of summer's stone fruit abundance across orchards and roadside stands. These cost $1.20 per pie, using ripe peaches, eggs, milk, sugar, flour, butter, cinnamon, nutmeg, and vanilla combined into golden filling studded with tender fruit pieces that released sweet juice. Housewives peeled peaches by blanching briefly in boiling water for 30 seconds, then shocking in ice water so skins slipped off easily without damaging flesh underneath or creating bruised spots that would brown during baking. They sliced peeled peaches into uniform half-inch pieces, tossing with small amount of flour and sugar to prevent browning and excessive juice release that would make custard watery and prevent proper setting in finished pies. Custard base made from beaten eggs, sugar, milk, and flour, whisked until smooth and no streaks remained visible. Then melted butter and vanilla stirred in, created rich filling that would surround peaches during baking process. The floured peach slices arranged in unbaked pie shells, in even layer without gaps. Custard poured over fruit until it reached just below rim, without overflowing edges. Then cinnamon and nutmeg sprinkled across tops, added warming spices that complemented peaches naturally through shared flavor compounds found in stone fruits. The pies baked at 375 degrees 45 minutes until peaches softened completely and custard set firm without any liquid pooling around edges or bubbling over crusts. The peach juice bled slightly into custard during baking, creating peachy flavor throughout, rather than just isolated fruit pieces suspended in plain vanilla custard. One pie served 8 people, generous slices perfect for summer church gatherings and outdoor fellowship meals under shade trees. The fresh peach season lasted only 3 to 4 weeks, making these special summer treats available briefly each year, when orchards released harvests and fruit stands overflowed with bushels of fragrant peaches. Church ladies competed over who brought first peach pie to Sunday dinner, signaling summer's peak had arrived and gardens flourished abundantly with tomatoes and corn. Freestone peaches worked better than clingstone varieties because slicing proved easier without mangled fruit that looked unappealing in finished pies presented at potlucks. Some bakers added 1/4 teaspoon almond extract that enhanced peach flavor naturally through chemical compounds shared between stone fruits and almonds scientifically, creating deeper fruit taste. Tart rhubarb folded into sweet custard created rhubarb custard pie that appeared at spring church gatherings when rhubarb stalks emerged from gardens after winter dormancy, signaling the growing season had finally begun across communities and marking the end of long winter months. These cost 80 cents per pie, using fresh rhubarb, eggs, sugar, flour, butter, vanilla, and nutmeg combined into pink-streaked custard with noticeable tartness that puckered mouths pleasantly and made children make funny faces. Housewives cut rhubarb stalks into 1/2-inch pieces using sharp knives, discarding poisonous leaves completely because they contained dangerous oxalic acid levels that could sicken people seriously. Then tossed pieces with 1/4 cup sugar and let sit 30 minutes to draw out excess moisture through osmosis that would otherwise make pies watery. They drained rhubarb in colander, reserving pink juice for lemonade or other uses in creative kitchens, then tossed drained pieces with 2 tablespoons flour to prevent sinking to pie bottom during baking process that would create uneven distribution. Custard base made from beaten eggs, 1½ cups sugar, 1/4 cup flour, and melted butter whisked until smooth created thick batter that would suspend rhubarb pieces throughout filling evenly. The floured rhubarb folded into custard, distributed throughout filling without breaking stalks into mush that would disappear into custard completely and lose characteristic texture. Then mixture poured into unbaked pie shells carefully to avoid disturbing bottom crust that would create leaks. Nutmeg grated across tops added warmth that balanced rhubarb's tartness and provided aromatic top note when pies emerged from ovens filling fellowship halls with scent. The pies were baked at 375 degrees 50 minutes until rhubarb softened completely, and the custard browned deeply around edges without burning or becoming bitter tasting. The rhubarb's natural pink color bled into custard during baking, creating beautiful streaked appearance throughout that looked stunning when sliced for serving at long potluck tables. One pie served 8 people portions with noticeable pucker from rhubarb's malic acid content that made faces scrunch humorously and required second bites to adjust to tartness. The spring timing made these first fruit pies of the growing season, appearing weeks before strawberries ripened in June across garden patches and orchards. Church members with rhubarb patches brought multiple pies, showcasing their garden productivity and generosity to congregations, who appreciated fresh produce after winter canned goods. The tartness divided people into devoted fans or complete avoiders, with no middle ground existing between extremes of passionate love and complete hatred for distinctive flavor. Some bakers added strawberries, when both fruits overlapped briefly in late May. Fresh raspberries suspended in vanilla custard created raspberry custard pie that appeared at summer church socials when raspberry season peaked briefly each July for only 2 precious weeks annually across berry patches and backyard gardens. These cost $1.50 per pie using fresh raspberries, eggs, milk, sugar, cornstarch, butter, lemon juice, and vanilla combined into pink custard studded with whole berries that remained intact throughout filling. Housewives picked raspberries early morning when cool temperatures kept them firm and dew still clung to leaves, selecting only ripe berries without mold or mushiness that would contaminate entire batches stored together in bowls. They handled berries gently because raspberries bruised easily and fell apart when roughly treated or piled too high in containers during transport from garden to kitchen. The delicate berries tossed carefully, with small amount of flour, prevented sinking during chilling process without coating them heavily in white dust that would look unappealing. Custard base made from beaten egg yolks, ½ cup sugar, 2 cups milk, and 3 tablespoons cornstarch, cooked over medium heat until thickened enough to coat spoon back completely, then 2 tablespoons butter, 1 teaspoon vanilla, and tablespoon lemon juice stirred in enhanced raspberry flavor, naturally through acid brightening that made fruit taste more vibrant. The floured raspberries folded into warm custard very gently, using rubber spatula to avoid crushing berries into mush that would turn custard completely pink and destroy texture entirely. The rosy custard poured carefully into pre-baked pie shells that had cooled completely and chilled 4 hours until set completely firm without any jiggle remaining when pan shaken gently. Baking destroyed raspberries' texture completely and turned them into seeds suspended in mush, so chilling method preserved berry integrity better than any baked version could achieve successfully. One pie served 8 people portions with whole raspberries visible throughout custard and bursting with flavor when bitten into during church fellowship meals. The fresh raspberry season lasted only 2 weeks in most regions, making these rare treats that appeared briefly each summer before berry patches stopped producing fruit and canes turned brown. Church ladies who grew raspberries brought these pies as special offerings, showcasing their berry patch productivity and gardening skills proudly to admiring congregations. The berries' cost exceeded other fruit significantly when purchased from markets, making these luxury pies rather than everyday offerings for regular potlucks and Wednesday night suppers. Some bakers used black raspberries when available from wild patches along fence rows, creating deeper purple custard that stained teeth and lips dramatically after eating and made children look like they'd been drinking grape juice. The lemon juice brightened raspberry flavor and prevented custard from tasting flat or overly sweet, without acid balance to cut through richness. Between 1940 and 1985, 30 distinct custard pies graced church fellowship halls every Sunday across America, each one representing hours of labor, generations of handed-down recipes, and the pride of women who measured their worth in blue ribbons and empty pie plates. These weren't just desserts, they were edible heirlooms, cultural touchstones that connected congregations through shared sweetness and friendly competition at potluck tables stretching the length of church basements. Then something shifted. Instant pudding mixes arrived in boxes, promising custard without tempering eggs or scalding milk. Store-bought pie crusts eliminated the need for chilled lard and patient hands. Cool Whip replaced meringue that required separating eggs and beating whites to stiff peaks. By 1990, the 30 forgotten custard pies had vanished almost completely, replaced by identical desserts from supermarket bakeries that tasted of nothing but convenience and sameness. Today, most people under 50 have never tasted real butterscotch custard made from dark brown sugar and butter, Never experienced the pucker of spring rhubarb suspended in sweet custard. Never witnessed the pink streaks of fresh raspberry bleeding into vanilla cream. The recipes still exist in stained church cookbooks sold at estate sales for quarters. But the knowledge of how custard should wobble when done, how meringue should seal to crust edges, how nutmeg should be grated fresh, that wisdom died with the grandmothers who perfected these pies over decades of Sunday baking. Your grandmother's custard pie recipe is disappearing. Share this article with someone who remembers when church potlucks meant 30 different homemade pies, not 30 store-bought sheet cakes.